Good luck.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün dünyada ilk 200'de yer alan The Macquarie University Eğitim ve Avustralya'da Yaşamı Anthony'den dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı questions kısmından sormayı unutmayın. Yes, Anthony, the stage is yours now.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Teşekkür ederim, Zeynep. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody. First of all, let me apologize about the horrible background here. I'm sure you don't want to see the office that I work in. I couldn't get the technology to get the virtual background up. But look, not a problem, because I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation shortly with you. So very quickly, let me just quickly share a screen with you, and we'll get going. Just a minute. Share screen. Here we go. So first of all, before I actually start going, hello Lutfiye, hello Najati, hello Faiza, hello everybody. Actually, what we might do is, while I'm setting up this, let's get you to put your where are you in Istanbul? Are you in Bursa? Are you in Ankara? In Konya? In Kars? Whereabouts in Turkey are you? Hi Fatih, hello Kerem. Istanbul, Najati, nice, very nice part of the world. I used to live in Istanbul a long time ago, in 1990. Where I was an English language teacher for a company called Tepun Dil Kursları in Kadıköy, where I learned a little bit of Turkish. My Turkish at the moment is very şöyle böyle, so that's why I'm doing all this in English. But anyway, let me just share the screen, and we will get going with the actual presentation. Okay, everybody. Well, look. First of all, thank you very much for tuning in. At the moment, Australia, as you know, because of this pandemic, has shut down its international borders. And as a result, nobody can get in and nobody can get out. But we're hoping that will change very, very shortly. We're hoping that visas will be issued quickly and borders will open in the new year, and that our international students will be able to get back into the country. So first of all, a little bit about the university, and then I'm actually going to share a very nice campus video of the university so you can have a look at it from a YouTube perspective. So my name's Anthony Bradley. I'm the regional director for all of Africa and all of Europe, which is a very large part of the world. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to do any travel at all for the last 18 months. So I myself am very much looking forward to traveling. So the university itself is located in Sydney. Now, despite a lot of people thinking that Sydney is the capital of Australia, it isn't. It is, however, the largest city in Australia with about 5.5 million people. And if you look at that, you can actually see that it is a very densely populated city spread around a lot of water. So in many respects, for those of you that are in Istanbul, you can actually see a bit of similarity. A lot of the houses and businesses and the attractive parts of the city are all based along a waterway. You'll recognize the Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And so these kind of things make Sydney a very, very attractive place to live. The lifestyle is great. And I can actually speak about that from with a foot in both camps. I'm actually English by birth. I was born in England. I grew up in England. My mother is from New Zealand, so I was very lucky to have 3 passports, Australia, New Zealand, and England. And I spent 20 years living in Australia. And the lifestyle is very, very different from in Europe. So Australians tend to be very, very enthusiastic about life. You know, you work in order to live. Your pen goes down at the end of the day, and off you go. You go down to the beach, you go down to the rivers, you go catch up with your friends in cafes. So the lifestyle is very good. And this is probably helped a lot by the weather. The climate in Sydney is very, very conducive towards a good life. It gets a little bit chilly for Australians in winter. It gets down to about 10 degrees. And in summer, it's consistently in the mid-20s and sometimes way up in the high 30s. Very multicultural population. So Australia, as you know, about 250 years ago was discovered by an English guy called Captain James Cook. And since then, there have been waves of migration from everywhere, from Asia, from Europe, from, all parts of the world. So when you walk down parts of Sydney, you can find a Chinatown, you can find a Turkish enclave, you can find a Russian enclave. So it's a very vibrant multicultural population. The economy is fantastic in Australia, which means there is a high level of safety. The police are paid very well and are therefore not corrupt. The unemployment level is very low, and there are lots of services in place to catch the people that have problems. So it's a very balanced lifestyle with a high level of safety. Great employment opportunities, which I will talk about shortly. So here's a couple of nice pictures of things that you can get up to when you're in Australia. It's very colourful. Sydney Opera House is now used as a cinema screen. They project laser movies and pictures onto the actual wings. You can try your hand at surfing if you want to, but just be aware that about 50 or 60 meters behind that surfer, you do become part of the food chain. We have some very big fish in the sea in Australia with very big teeth. You can see them in safety in our underground aquarium and various museums and exhibitions that we have. You can go for walks. There are hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of walkways around Sydney for you to actually, wander around the towns and the suburbs of Sydney. There are free barbecues and there are free access to lots of little bays and coves. Australia is well known for its beach, and that is a picture of Bondi Beach. I'm sure you've all heard of Bondi Beach. And some of the more popular beaches in Australia have what they call ocean pools. These are like big open swimming pools that are refreshed as the tide comes in and comes out. And as I said, it's a very outdoor lifestyle. Because of the weather, people do what we in Europe tend to do inside, they can do outside. So there are a lot of open air cinemas, barbecue areas, meeting places, gathering areas. So it's a very outdoor kind of lifestyle, which sort of gives that Australian image of, healthy, fit people wandering around the place. Now, a little bit about the university. It's a huge university. So in Australia, there are 42 universities. Only 1 or 2 are private. The rest are government universities. They're public universities. Macquarie is a public university. However, we own the land on which the university is built. And it's a massive 126 hectare park-like campus with amazing facilities. So last year, right at the height of the pandemic, the university spent $500 million on boosting its infrastructure, putting in new accommodation, new office blocks, new law school. So it really is a very, very cutting edge. One thing I will say about Australian universities, and you will recognize this as Turkish people, when you study in a country like Australia, it can be quite expensive. So you expect in return good quality facilities, which is definitely what you would get with us. We were born in 1964, so it makes it 3 years older than me. Okay, so there will be a trick question at the end of this presentation. How old am I? We've got about 40,000 students, about a 25% international student database, incredibly flexible courses. So whether you're coming from your diplomas in high school in Turkey, or whether you're coming from a university like Koç University, for example, there are programs that you can go into, shorter programs, longer programs. So there's an element of flexibility. We are not in downtown Sydney. We're about 15 kilometers from the city centre, but we are the only Australian university with our own train station on campus. So we are actually a transport hub in ourselves. So at the end of the day, excuse me, it's not a COVID cough, guys. So at the end of the day, when you've done your studies, you can hop on the train and go straight into the city. This is a very interesting point. We actually have over 300 companies on campus. So we have used the equity in the land that we own to build infrastructure in which we house offices like Microsoft, Deloitte, actual work companies that are based on the university campus. So what we are trying to do is to create a closer interface between your studies and prospective employment. So obviously I can't guarantee you a job, but the links between what you study and where you work become very, very close because we house so many companies on campus. And as of last week, we are now ranked in the top 1% of world universities. So our current ranking is 196 in the whole world, and there's about 20,000 universities in the world. That is a picture of the campus. I can hear these. I understand that some of you guys are putting in questions into the chat. I will get to them at the end, I promise. I'll just get through the presentation and then I'll get into the chat questions. So keep coming, keep putting the questions into the chat, and I'll respond to them in about 5 or 10 minutes. This is a picture of our campus. As you can see, it is huge. You can also see all the key infrastructure points that I mentioned. We've got a train station. We are the only Australian university with a private hospital on campus. So if you choose to do medicine or health services management or psychology or medical sciences or audiology, these are things that you can all do on campus. Down in the bottom right-hand corner of that picture, we have an Olympic standard aquatic center and gym. So again, we are very, very well provisioned for your sporting facilities as well. So technically, it's a town. You know, it's 40,000 students, 5,000 staff. It's like a small town. So theoretically, you could wake up in the morning, cycle to the gym, do a bit of a workout and a swim, cycle back, fall over, break your finger on the bike, go to hospital, catch up with your friends in a shopping center for lunch, and you still haven't left the campus. So what I'm saying, it is very, very self-contained. And when I speak to the students that we have there and I say, look, what do you like about Macquarie? Most of the answers actually are everything is in the same place. It's a one-stop shop. Importantly, if you look across the top of that slide, you can see some of the accolades that the university has got. We're ranked in the top 1% in the world. We're #1 for graduate employment rate. So we're not #1 ranked in Australia, but we are #1 in terms of students who successfully find work within the first 6 months of graduating. And as many of you already know, as long as you complete a 2-year program in Australia, you can stay in Australia for 2 years to work when you finish. So we try very, very hard to create that link between your graduating and finding work. We do a lot of research. We're a very high intensive research university. So if you're interested in PhD work, Masters by Research, Masters of Philosophy, for example, we do a lot of research programs. We have 10 subjects ranked in the top 100 in the world. And we have over 30,000 work placements for students. Okay, so that's a little bit. I don't want to bore you with too much statistics. This is just an overview. Now, what are we famous for? Now, every university has bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, PhDs, but the key, the real holy grail of raising the profile of the university is the application of that research. So these are some of the things that were invented by our Macquarie University researchers. Now, you won't know all of them, but I am quite sure you've heard of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi was actually invented by electronic engineers professors at Macquarie University about 25, 30 years ago. And of course, everybody lives, you couldn't live without Wi-Fi now. I certainly couldn't. As I said, it's a comprehensive university, which means we offer pretty much everything: business, education, engineering, environment, health, law, criminology, media, science, humanities. It's probably easier if I tell you what we don't have. We don't do veterinary science, we don't do chemical engineering, we don't do dentistry, and we don't do nursing. Okay, so those are the 4 popular subjects that we don't do. We divide it into 4 different faculties: arts, we do business school, faculty of human sciences and medicine, science and engineering, and we have something called Macquarie University International College. And this is for students who want to get in to do something, but don't quite meet the academic entry requirements. So you can do a period of study with us at diploma level or foundation program level before you go into your program. So that's an overview of the programs itself and the shape of the university. Now, this is very important. You guys, you know, if you're traveling overseas and stuff, of course you're widely traveled. Of course you all speak English. But when you go to Australia, it's a new country. There are going to be things that you don't know about. So this university, our Macquarie University, we offer a wide range of support services for students. For example, we'll meet you at the airport. We have an entire department of dedicated staff that are trained to counsel you. So for example, when the COVID-19 crisis hit, we had a lot of international students who suddenly lost their job, lost their money, were worried about not being able to get home. So we have a very highly trained group of staff that will be able to help you and counsel you, whether it's disability issues, welfare issues, finance issues, mental health issues. These are all very important aspects that you need to manage in order to have a good and happy and prosperous time when you study with us. We have a medical clinic on campus, as you would expect, because we have a hospital, numeracy and learning skills workshops, conversation classes, and careers and employment service. So you may know that when you become an international student in Australia, you get a visa, a study visa. Embedded in your visa is a work permit, which entitles you to 40 hours of work part-time over a 2-week period. So we have an employment service that will help you to get that job. Obviously, they don't give you the job or push you into the queue, but they will do things like help you to design your CV, help you to write a letter of introduction, train you on interview technique. Basically, they will help you get the foot in the door for your interview. So this is a huge comprehensive area of student support in order to make your life happy when you study with us. Now, for students that are in high school, if you want to come and do a bachelor's degree with us, this is what you need to consider. So if you've come from a background with your diplomacy or developmental diplomacy with a minimum average of 2 out of 5, you need to do a foundation program. 3 out of 5, you have to do an intensive foundation program. And if you get 4 out of 5, then you will need to do the first year of your bachelor's degree in a diploma format, and then you go into the second year of your bachelor's degree. Okay, so when you get into the diploma level, it is not an extra year of study. It is simply a boosted first year of the bachelor's degree. Now, for those of you that have already got a bachelor's degree from Turkey or from another country, you can obviously apply to do a postgraduate degree. And generally what we're looking at is about a 65-75% pass rate. So a second class lower if you're using the UK system, but it is something that we will look at. So regardless of what you've done, please do submit an application and we will look at that application and your bachelor's degree to see whether you make it into the master's degree. Now, this is also very important, is that we work with 3 main education representatives in Turkey. We have Atlas Educational Services, Hub Edu, and we have IDP Turkey. Okay, all 3 of these, they're separate businesses, but all 3 of these are very, very familiar with how Macquarie University works in terms of applications. And those are the 3. You choose one, make an approach, and they will talk you through the application process. It's a free service. Okay, it's a way for us to have outreach into various countries to assist prospective students to apply. So they will help you with your application, and they will also help you with your visa application as well, which is equally important. There are a number of things that you need to do when you apply for your visa that these guys will be able to help you with. So 3 agents that we work with. And that there is my email address if you want to send me an email directly, anthony.bradley@mq.edu.au. Now, I am sure, I can't see the chat questions at the moment, but I'm quite sure, without even looking, that somebody has asked whether we have scholarships. And we do. Now, what we have is this. We have something called a $10,000 early acceptance scholarship. Now, this basically means that if you are a European citizen, and we include Turkey in that, okay? So we know that 2% of Turkey is in Europe, so I've managed to push the rest of the 98% of your wonderful country into the Europe zone, which means that if you are Turkish, you are eligible for $10,000 per year reduction from fees, okay? Now, that's guaranteed. You don't have to apply for it. All you need to do is if you submit an application, you will be given a 3-week window in which to accept that offer. If you accept that offer within 3 weeks, that $10,000 per year is yours. And it comes off, the $5,000 comes off per semester. If you are not from Turkey and not from Europe, let's say, for example, you're from Africa or you're from parts of Asia or Latin America, we have a $5,000 regional scholarship. So if you are from Europe, you get the 10. If you're from different parts, you will get 5. Now, that is my presentation. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can actually look at some of these questions. Necati Sozuz, you live in Kadıköy. Brilliant. I used to live in a town, a tiny part of Kadıköy called Ziverbey. Necati, do you know where Ziverbey is? It was a tiny, small little place. Right, now that's the chat. Let's just quickly go. Okay, so we've got Zeynep's written in Turkish there. Hello, hello. Yigit Çalyan. Okay, let's have a look at the questions. Please don't be shy. So make sure you do put some questions into the chat box, and I'm more than happy to answer for you. So this is from Ece. Can Turkish students work part-time during study? Is it weekly 20 hours? So basically, Ece, yes, of course you can work part-time. And technically, it's actually 40 hours over 2 weeks, okay? Which means that if McDonald's give you 10 hours in your first week, you can get 30 hours in your second week. So it's actually worked on over a 2-week basis. So Ece, yes, you can work. It's 40 hours over 2 weeks, and it's full-time during the student holidays, okay? Necati, what a great question. Is Sinovac vaccine approved by Australian health authorities? That is, I'm going to give you 10 points for that question. At the moment, so Australia is a little bit behind the rest of the world. Obviously, you would have read about how they had people were scared of the AstraZeneca, so now they're bringing in lots of Pfizer. I've had the AstraZeneca jab. My suspicion is that the Sinovac will be approved without any question whatsoever, simply because Asia, which is a very, very big trading partner of Australia, has a lot of Sinovac vaccination points. So I cannot guarantee it or clarify, but I'm fairly sure, Necati, that Sinovac will be approved. Can we apply? So this is from Eda Koseolu. Can we apply to more than one program with one application fee? There is no application fee at Macquarie University, okay? So we don't have an application fee. You simply submit your application. You are able to choose 3 different programs, okay? So you might want to choose Master of Business, Master of Commerce, Master of Economics. There is no application fee. So you submit it, we review it. If you meet the entry requirements for your first choice, we make an offer. If you don't make the entry requirements for the first choice, we will go to your second choice, and so on. Okay, Yeet. I haven't got money to pay tuition fees. What should I do? How can I answer that? You need to get hold of some money to pay tuition fees. What we would, this is actually not a mandate from the university. This is a mandate from the Department of Immigration. So the Australian Embassy in Ankara, when you apply to us, all we care about is the fact that you have a bachelor's degree or your diploma plus an IELTS score of 6.5. That's all we care about. However, when you apply for a visa, the people that will issue you the visa will say, how is this person going to support themselves? Where are they going to stay? Can they afford accommodation? Can they afford to eat? Can they afford to study? If the answer is no, then they will not give you a student visa for obvious reasons. You can't just have a student visa and go over there and be unable to play a part in the role that you applied for. So you need about, basically what you will need, you're going to have to show evidence of about 53,000 Australian dollars per year. So the initial deposit when you pay to get the confirmation from us is 1 semester of fees. Now, our fees are about $39,000. We would give you $10,000 reduction because you're Turkish. That's 29. Divide that in 2, and that's 14.5. That is your initial deposit. Now, that will allow us to give you a confirmation of enrollment, which you need when you apply for your visa. When you apply for the visa people will want to see that you have enough money for 1 year's tuition fee plus 1 year's of living expenses. So it's about $53,000 you need to demonstrate. Mustafa, you're curious about the situation with wild animals. I mean, is it true that we might see some wild animals like snakes or spiders? So look, I lived in Australia for 20 years and I saw snakes and spiders, yes. However, you don't need to worry about it because it's a big city, really. The spiders and the snakes are terrified of cars and buildings and people. So if you go out into the bush, you go out into the wild, you may well see spiders and snakes, but it's not like it's going to surprise you. Australia does tend to over-sensationalize its wild animals. You're not going to get eaten by a shark. You're not going to get bitten by a snake or a spider because these things are part of the tourist road that you go on. I'm going to ask a question at the end of this, Mustafa. So listen carefully. I'm going to ask a question about Australia's dangerous side. Nejati, how is the vaccination situation in Australia? Excellent question again. Actually, after a very slow start, so Australia has a number of states and territories. Sydney is in New South Wales, Melbourne, Victoria, Adelaide, South Australia, and so on. Each state is traveling at a different speed in terms of vaccination. New South Wales is by far and away the best and the fastest vaccination rollout. So about 75% of New South Wales has had one vaccine and about 40% has had two vaccines. As soon as the double vaccinated level reaches 70%, they will start opening the borders, which hopefully Semra Togus, that will answer your question. The borders will open when the government is satisfied that the vaccination level has reached a point that there will be a balance between virus cases and virus deaths. At the moment, there are too many deaths compared to cases. They want it to be more like the UK, where the caseload is high maybe, but the death rate is low. It will happen. New South Wales has already developed a pilot scheme, like a strategy to bring international students back. And this has actually been approved by the federal government. We just need to wait until the vaccination goes up. So the short answer, Semra, is that we don't have a solid date yet, but we are expecting international students to start arriving in the middle of next year. Nejati, is Qantas Airlines operating from abroad to Sydney? Very shortly, they will be. Again, they will be starting international flights very soon, and they will be refusing to take people who are not vaccinated. So they're being very, very strict. Julia Torun, how about campus dorms monthly fees? So as I mentioned, we have 3 or 4 different kinds of accommodation on campus. So depending on whether you want to share a room with a friend, share a house with a bunch of friends, have a private suite to yourself, which is like a hotel, the rates vary from about $200 a week to $600 a week, depending on what you want. Wow, Nejati, you're full of questions. How is the coronavirus pandemic situation at your campus and your city? Sydney is at the moment is locked down. So everybody is at home. Nobody's on campus at the moment. Everybody is studying online. Everyone is working online. The streets are quiet. It's probably like England and Istanbul was about a year ago. So at the moment, they are in quite a strict lockdown. But as I said, as the vaccination rate increases, you will find that they will start opening the borders. And Jati, again, do you have face-to-face education this fall or mixed with online distance education? No, at the moment, everything is online. So if you decide to start studying with us, so what I should also mention is this. In Australia, the intakes, the academic intakes, they start in February for semester 1 and July for semester 2. So the July intake is already started. If you start with us in February, you're probably going to be spending the first semester online. If you want to avoid online study altogether, your best bet would be to apply for a semester 2 intake next year. So some good questions there. We got any new questions? Okay, Feza Yalchin. How about living expenses around Sydney? Is campus located in city centre? So no, we're not in the city centre. We're about 15 kilometres to the northwest. So right in the city centre is actually quite expensive. The further out you get, the cheaper it becomes. It's like any big city. I mean, central Istanbul can be quite expensive as well. So you're looking at about $4.50, $5 for a cup of coffee. A meal will be about $15 to $20 depending on what you want. The best way to focus on this, Faiza, is to imagine that you need about $22,000 per year living expenses. That is what the visa people will want to see when you get there. If you've got a budget of $22,000, you will be fine. Nejati, did you get your vaccination? Both, mate. I've got both of them. Hopefully getting number 3 in September. Let me just go back to these questions. Julia, do you offer pre-seasonal English if we cannot get through level of English? Yes, we do. Absolutely. So if you make an application and your IELTS score is not quite high enough, you can come to our English Language Center and study before you start. Or, and the cheaper way to do it would be to do your IELTS again in Turkey, and then try to get it up before you apply. That'll save you some money. Erman, can we pay out all debts about proceed of universities and accommodations, etc., inside of study times? Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people budget. You don't pay everything anyway. You pay semesterly. So you pay, you do 4 subjects, you study your 4 subjects, you do your exams, and then the next semester, you pay in advance and you do your 4 subjects. So you pay semesterly. Okay, any other questions? Eche, Erman, Julia, Torun, Faiza. How about living expenses? We've done that one, Najati. You get participated in first robotic competition in Turkey. You may be able to get some discount. Yeah, so if you're going into a Bachelor of Engineering or a Master's of Engineering and you've done first robotics, we do have a scholarship that is managed by First Robotics. What I can do is, if you go onto our website and type in international scholarships, First Robotics, you will get that information. I'm not sure if it's a full scholarship, but there's definitely something there. And well done, Yigit, for actually doing First Robotics, because Macquarie University is a big sponsor of First Robotics. We have an amazing bachelor's degree in mechatronic engineering, which plays a role in that whole robotic things. Erman, is that effectively for scholarship, this work experience, diplomatic note? I'm not sure I understand that question, Erman, but the scholarship, the $10,000, is automatic. It's guaranteed. You only have to have a European passport, and that's it. That's automatic. 2 other questions. Mustafa, what is the application procedure, as in first come, first serve, or a more equitable application? We don't do first come, first served. So in Australia, there is no cap on the number of international students. There are very few programs that have a quota. So if you go into medicine, yes. If you go into dentistry, yes. Things like aviation, yes. But for 99.9% of our programs, there is no cap. So Mustafa, just out of interest, what are you interested in studying? Because for most of the programs, if you meet the application, if you meet the entry requirements, you get an offer. There is no quota. There is no first come, first served. It's basically, as long as you meet the entry requirements and you get an offer and you accept that offer in time to start the program, that's no problem at all. Does the Australian government pay the public for the lockout? They do have some financial provisions if you are losing money in a business, if you've lost your job. There are some financial recompense. Some people say it's good, other people say it's not so good. Fatih Jan Ahashah, what factors effective to gain scholarship much more? For example, 3. Okay, so so we don't have academic scholarships, basically. What we used to do, we used to have a great big pot of money, and all the people right in the top level would get scholarships and everybody else didn't. What we've done is we have spread the money equitably to give everybody a chance. So we don't have so the $10,000 scholarship, Fatih, would go to you anyway because you're Turkish. If you've got an amazing GPA, then there is something called the Vice Chancellor's International Scholarship, but that is only an extra $1,000 or $2,000. The big one, the 10,000, will go to you automatically, but you can apply for a vice chancellor's as a top-up if you've got an amazing GPA like that. So when you do apply for it, I will be notified and I can see your GPA, and then I approve $1,000 or $2,000. Erman, how is accommodation for that? So accommodation, as I said, we've got 2 or 3 accommodation groups on campus. All right. So a lot of students want to live on campus when they study with us, because you basically want to wake up in the morning, roll out of bed, go to your class. Okay. And that way, you know, you become part of the Macquarie family. You don't worry about signing contracts with private companies. And then what actually happens is, naturally, you meet a bunch of friends. In the second semester, one of you says, oh, my uncle's brothers, sisters, cousins got an apartment in town. We need 3 people to join. Do you want to? So you move out naturally. So we recommend that students spend the first semester on campus. And that way you become a part of the family. We do have a huge range of off-campus options as well. So we've got, so the youth hostels are independent, but we do have a lot of verified accommodation options that we ourselves have actually gone into, check to see whether the toilet works, check to see whether it's safe, for example, because it's a little bit dangerous sometimes in actually applying for independent accommodation from a long way away. A picture on the internet may look very, very different in reality when you get there. So it's always best to go through the university accommodation services, whether you want to stay on campus or off campus, it doesn't matter. Share my email in chat, absolutely. So I'm just going to put my email in the chat box. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask everybody a question here. Anthony Bradley, just a minute. mq.edu.au. So in the chat box is my email address, everybody. And I'm going to ask a question for you as well. So I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it was that asked about the wild animals. But here's a question for you. What do you think kills or injures or is the biggest problem for international students studying in Australia? Okay. Somebody mentions sharks and spiders and snakes and everything. But in your opinion, what do you think is the single most dangerous thing in Australia for international students? Type your answers into the chat box, please, and I'll give 10 points to the winner. I'll tell you what I'll do. Whoever actually gets it right, I will buy them a coffee if I ever see you in the campus. This is from Ada. Are there any scholarships specific to IB students? No, as I said, we've moved away from the academic scholarships. We tend to focus more on the early acceptance regional scholarships in order to boost diversification. Obviously, Ada, if you've got like a 39 points for your IB, you can apply additionally for what's called the Vice Chancellor's International Scholarship, but it's only $1,000 or $2,000 on top of it. It's not the big $10,000 European scholarship. Chat, let's have a look. Kangaroos, snakes, and immigration. Mustafa, yeah, immigration laws. Not a bad answer. Kangaroos, Fatih. No, well, they are quite dangerous, but they're not so dangerous. Nothing for me. Amazing country. Oh, okay, that's a very positive answer. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me give you a bit of a hint about what is dangerous. It does affect Turkish students, but it does not affect British students. It does affect American students. It does not affect Japanese students, but it does affect Chinese students. Language barrier and accent, Yeet? Not really. It's not really dangerous, though, is it? I mean, like when I moved to Australia, my brother-in-law is a born and bred Australian, and for the first couple of months, I could barely understand him. He would say things like, "G'day, mate, just take me eat down the bars, all right?" And I said, "What?" Mustafa, you're thinking about getting a master's degree in economics and finance and starting a startup at the same time. Will this affect my work? Absolutely not. So, Mustafa, if you meet the entry requirement, if you've got a bachelor's degree in a similar area, economics, banking, finance, commerce, and you meet the academic entry requirements and the English language entry requirements of 6.5, number one, you would probably get an offer for our program. And number two, we actually have something called we have a startup hub at the university. Okay, we have an innovation and startup hub at the university where you can actually put in a request for office space, developmental advice on making your own startup from the university itself. Traffic, Sule, yes. You're going to get a cup of coffee. If you come to Macquarie University and you see me, traffic, because we drive on the other side of the road. So the problem is people walk across the road. If you're from a country where you drive on the right-hand side, the first thing you do is you look left, okay? And you don't see any cars because they're all coming from the right. That is the biggest problem for international students. So forget spiders and snakes and sharks and mosquitoes and things like that. It is actually to do with the fact that we drive on the other side of the road. It's a human problem. Okay, Erman, how is the facility of finding jobs there about engineering branches when we study and when we then finish? Actually, engineering in Australia is very, very well employed. So if you're doing a master's degree in engineering or a bachelor's degree in engineering, very often engineering companies will come into the university with business cards saying, look, if you're doing engineering, there's my business card, contact me. Australia is a heavily industrialized country. And so they're always looking for your civil engineers, your software engineers, your mechatronic engineers. So engineering is one area where you should be able to find work relatively quickly, or you should be able to get internship. There are some work opportunities quite close to the university. And if you go into the employment section of the university, they will point you in the right direction. Okay, this is in Turkish. Lisans eğitimi için VIP var mı? Is there a education license something? Somebody, Zeynep, do you want to translate that for me, please? Lisans eğitimi için VIP.
Do you need a VIP for license education? What is VIP? I don't know, but
but as it's look, I think I understand advanced placement. I think I understand fully. So what it means is, so if you apply to do education, you would, all your placements and your internships are done as part of the program. So if you come from a Bachelor of Education and you want to do a Master of Teaching, Master of Education, any work placement is done as part of your master's program. Okay. Now the big problem is doing it online. So if you're wanting to do a Master of Teaching, excuse me, your best bet is to wait until you get to Australia, and then the placements and the practicum will be part of the education degree. How is environmental engineer department for job finding? Very difficult for me to answer, Erman, because if I have 10 students in front of me, 5 will say easy, 5 will say difficult. Environmental engineering is very big on the radar at the moment. There is a lot of focus from certain political groups about making sure that industrial impact has low environmental impact. You know about climate change regulations and everything. So environmental engineering is becoming quite a high profile area. But in terms of how easy it is to get a job, I'm not actually sure. You might have to do a little bit of research on that yourself. Fulya, did that answer your question? So the advanced placement will be done, any placements will be done as part of your degree when you study with us. So the startup hubs, Mustafa, I don't have the link quite handy, but if you go on to, if you basically go onto our website and just put startup hubs, that will actually take you to the link itself. Let me just a moment. Let me just go onto our website. I'll see if I can find out about the startup hubs for you, Mustafa. Chat. What's going on? Who's okay, Fulia, thank you. No worries. Where questions? What is the requirements to stay in the university as professor, then master's degrees? I'm not too sure what that means as professor, then master's degree. You cannot become a professor without a PhD. So basically, you have to have a PhD and you would have to apply for a job. So if you already have a PhD, if you're already a professor, you basically have to apply to teach at that university. So you'd have to apply as a job first and then do the master's degree later, or you do your master's degree while you're there and then apply while you're there. So it's not linked. Let me see if, Mustafa, let me see if I can find something about startup information for you. Just give me 2 minutes, everybody. Startup. Okay, let's have a look. Staff portal. But please keep the questions coming, guys. Hopefully that was a useful sort of insight into the university. Mustafa, I can't find it at the moment, but if you actually send me an email, I put my email address into the chat function. Send me an email and I will send you the links to the startup information and how it all works. How is visa politics for? That's another good question, Erman. So visas, the way Australia works is that every country in the world is given a level 1, level 2, or level 3 status. Okay, high risk, medium risk, low risk, medium risk, high risk. Turkey always wavers between 2 and 3. Not necessarily because it's a dangerous country or anything. It's just because that in the past, some students coming to some areas, and not always university areas, but vocational training, have tend to break the regulations of the visas. So this is why it's a good idea to contact one of the representatives that I showed you in the presentation, which will be made available to you. They will guide you through the visa application process. So there's a number of things, Erman, that you need to think about when you apply for a visa. So if you're applying for a master's degree, okay, and you already have a master's degree and a PhD, the visa people will say, why do you want another master's degree? So they like to see a logical progression of academic progress, okay? The next thing will be is the study gap. If you finished one level of education, let's say, for example, you finished your bachelor's degree 4 years ago and you want to do a master's degree, we have to see what you've done in the meantime. Anything more than 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, the longer the study gap, the more strictly the visa people will look at your visa application, because they will say, why have you not done a master's degree in that interim period? So these are not aspects that the university looks at. These are aspects that the visa people will look at in the embassy. So they will look at financial ability. They will look at study gap. They will look at study program, level. They will look at study program. Is it the same as what you've done? They will look at if you're traveling with your family. So they will look at lots and lots and lots of different things. Another thing that they look at is, have you had a visa refusal from Canada, for example? If they've had a visa refusal from Canada, they want to know why. So this is not stuff that we look at, okay? This is the political stuff, as you say, that the government will look at when they look at your visa application. And this is why it's a good idea to have a representative help you, because they will be able to advise on the best way to approach applying for it. Right, any other questions? Visa politics. Wow. Najati, you've just been beaten by Erman for the number of questions you've asked. Does anybody have any more questions? Zeynep, have I said everything? Is there anything else I should add, or is everything, is there enough information there?
Yes, thank you very much for your great presentation, Anthony. I think you covered all of the questions, and thank you for your answers too.
No worries. I just want on a final note, everybody. So, do you have programs for assistance of teacher assistment? I'm assuming you mean like becoming a practice teacher. Again, this is something that's not part of the student visa. This is actually what you would have to do when you get there. The student visa is uniquely for students that just want to study. If you're looking for work opportunities, this is something that you will have to take up when you actually get there, because I don't want to give you the wrong information about, yes, you can do this, no, you can't do that. Some students are able to find work in areas that they're looking for, and other students find it a little bit more difficult. The key really is to have all your finances ready and to have your plan ready, and then to deal with the employment opportunities when you get there. Okay, thank you. Bir şey değil. Is that what you say for you're welcome in Turkish? I think that's what you say, isn't it? Bir şey değil. Anyway, everybody, listen, I've put my email address into the chat function. I'm going to sign off now because it's coming up to the end of the hour. Please send me an email if you've got any questions, and then I will be able to point you in the right direction. Ada, I think Zeynep, this recording will be made available to everybody, won't it?
Yes, so they can watch in our YouTube channel.
Okay, so Ada, did you get that from Zeynep? This video will go onto the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch that. Okay, Zeynep's writing. Okay. Oh, and oh my goodness, it's already up there. Okay, that's very fast, isn't it? Technology, my goodness. Okay, let's see. There's one more chat. Thanks. You're welcome, everybody. Look, it was lovely to talk to you. Look, I won't be, I don't want to get everyone's hopes up. Yes, the borders are still closed. International borders are still closed. But as the vaccination rates do improve, slowly the plan to open international borders to welcome back our international students should progress. Okay, so fingers crossed we will see you in Australia. I'm going to Australia next year in October. If you see me walking around the campus and you're studying with us, tap me on the shoulder and I will buy you a cup of coffee. And that's a promise. And that's a promise.
Thank you very much for the amazing session, Anthony. We believe it was a really informative webinar for the attendees. And also I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Macquarie University ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adresinden Anthony'ye ulaşabilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda sizi alttaki webinarımıza da davet etmek isteriz. Thank you again, Anthony. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Çok teşekkürler arkadaşlar.
Çok teşekkürler. Görüşmek üzere.
Okay, goodbye everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.